Welcome once again to Syntax Error, your pretentious philosophical pedantic podcast ostensibly about video gaming and related topics therein. Warning, this podcast contains mature language, content, and spoilers. You have been warned. Welcome back to a semi-special episode of Syntax Error. I, of course, am, as ever, Scott Thurlow, joined tonight by Jonathan Manzer.
Hello.
And Stephen Amosi.
Hey, we're back.
And we have just come from a virtual reality experience where we played a number of VR games from a nearby arcade. Their name is Arcane Reality. And met by a very nice dude named Rami, who basically seemed to be running it himself today. We had an appointment, and this was the first time we've ever checked out and actually played a number of VR games, and we were going to talk about our experiences with them. So, do either of you gentlemen have any initial thoughts on our VR experience?
Well, I got invited to a beta test through...
Right, I'm sorry, why don't you give us some background on this, He?
I got invited to a beta test through Rutgers University, and this wasn't an open business. This is, in a sense, we were in their office.
Yeah.
In this kind of really shady corporation building.
Yeah,
but,
the building looked like it
Tyrell
was...
Corporation.
Yeah, it looked like it was a sci-fi building from the 80s.
Yeah, which made sense that they would house it with the VR. But anyways, go on.
And we went to their offices, which looked like a company that develops virtual reality. They had like two main stations open, which they said they're going to add two more for the beta testing later on and multiplayer eventually. Mm-hmm. But overall, it was really neat to feel like you're on the forefront of technological development. Yeah, sure. And hopefully we helped him giving critiques with this. And I have to say it was an surprisingly amazing experience.
Yes, agreed. You know, he asked us, have you ever, we're pretty much biased about this. We're pretty big gamers and been interested in this and got invited to this beta. So, we're sort of automatically going to probably think it's cool to check it out. And in fact, it was much cooler because, like I said, none of us have ever actually played any VR games. I've seen a lot of footage, but he was also very knowledgeable. So he's talking to us about here and there. He's like, yes, it's sometimes literally indescribable. It's hard to tell people about this without just showing them and having them play the game. So, yeah, I think we started off with, so let's talk about the games themselves. The first one, I don't have the name in front of me. What did you call it, E?
Either Galactic Target Practice or Stormtrooper, a Marksmanship Academy.
Yeah, so it was probably about 20 by 20 foot, little area that you stand in and has the sensors, and it's goggles and two, sort of controllers that are almost like wands, kind of.
Yeah.
Sort of like a Wii controller, but simplified, has a trigger and a little touchpad. And this one was, you're in space, and little robot things with shooting lasers come out of the little portals, and you shoot them. You can select different guns. It was a laser, I believe, and sort of a pulse gun. And it's basically an literally arcade style. Points. Shoot the robots for points, get extra lives, get bonuses. So that was the one we started off with. It was quite cool.
One of the coolest things with that is moving out of the way.
Well, I was getting to that.
All right. Yeah.
See, so that one has a number of settings on it, right? So
you start on the practice mode.
So he was like, just get a feel for it. It's kind of simplified, the easiest, if you will, version of it. And he was like, well, you guys are gamers, so you're probably going to be pretty solid. We're like, yeah. So then it was, I think, attack mode, which was where, in addition to shooting the robots and so forth, and missiles that are coming at you, you have to literally, physically dodge lasers.
When you shoot into the abyss, it shoots back at you.
The abyss shoots back, indeed. And it was really fun, that's something you cannot do in traditional video games, obviously, and it was, that took some getting used to. But it was really cool to, when you dodge a laser, oh, yeah, fuck you, I just dodged that shit.
So, it is really difficult. I played, Virtual Boy back in the day. I couldn't actually imagine how virtual reality would be like, but it's really an immersive experience. You look around 360 degrees.
You're completely closed off to actual reality.
Yeah.
You're seeing this world, and you have the audio headphones on playing music. So when people are talking to you, if you can hear them at all, it sounds like they're outside of your world, like voices whispering in the distance. And the biggest issue I had was actually judging my movements, trying to make sure that my movements in reality didn't overstep the limit, or my movements within the virtual world didn't overstep my limits in reality. Because it's weird because
you can't tell where you physically are situated because it's a false world.
Well, I will say that there is a pretty, when you're about to go past a boundary, so there's certainly boundaries that you can't go past. You're basically in a box.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no actual walls, but there's 4 corners,
Right.
and you have to stay within those limits for the game to pick you up. And if you're getting close to the edge, there's usually there's always something.
There is a marker. You're right.
That would show
like
you
a grid or something appears. But to your point, like as you were saying, it's you can look up across the vastness of space and see and hear nothing but that.
Right.
And it's very compelling. I have to say, like.
I'll also say a couple little things. So when I was watching you play, Scott, like I feel like you were just right at the beginning, like starting to unlearn everything that you had learned. So like you weren't moving at all in the beginning. You were standing there with your guns.
Yeah.
Like you weren't moving your feet. You weren't moving your head at all. And we were trying to like yell to you, but you had the headphones on so you couldn't hear us. And then you started to move around a little bit more. And then Ian, with you, when you were playing, I forget what the office simulator, the job simulator. The dude was telling me, because Scott, you were playing something else. The dude was telling me, he was like, "Yeah, I've never seen someone this tall play before, so this is like a completely new view to me." Like he's like, "I've never seen the game from this this perspective."
Like, crouch down, look at like you can see how the world like
changes. Yeah.
If you jump, the world moves. If you crouch down, the visual, it all matches 1-to-1.
Yeah. We should mention that as observers, so like me. Whoever wasn't playing at the time, because we only had two
of us were playing at the time, and one person usually was watching.
So whoever was observing, including like in this case me and the dude that was running it, Rami, he had a screen for us. I don't think we mentioned that. So like he had a screen so that we could see, being outside what was going on within the games, which is really cool.
Which is a lot less immersive, but at least you could see what the person inside who was playing the game was also seeing, but just not, of course, 100% 360 and so forth. But no, I mean, I think that was a really good game for him to lead us off with. And yeah, you're right. Like, I sort of got into it because I'm like, I like to think of myself as a pretty good shooter. And I will have to say this is my other thing that I was sort of nervous about, but the responsiveness of it and the accuracy was pretty spot on. Like, I thought like maybe it would be like missing and stuff, or like, oh, I definitely shot that thing.
I was afraid the duck hunt problem would come up.
Precisely. Yeah. No, it was pretty dead on for the most part. So we enjoyed that game. And then I think he moved us on to, or at least I moved on to a zombie simulator game.
While you were playing that, he got me set up on.
Why don't you talk about Job Simulator?
Job Simulator, which was just a funny game that was a lot of fun. You basically just go into these robots have simulated a job environment, and hundreds of years or thousands of years in the future, and so it's like set up to be what a job is. You go in there, like the one that I did, I went into an office. I think you did the chef, but like I went into an office and it was like, okay, now email. And you like have to plug in your computer and plug in your monitor, and then it would bring up 5,000 emails. You just delete them all. It's like, all right, email done. Great. Moving on to next task.
No, that's really funny. But so just quickly, Job Simulator, if I didn't mention this, I'll mention it now. They're also developing their own games, and they have a couple of licenses for known games. So sort of doing both, he was telling us. So there's some that, like, you probably won't see that are specific to them, but also, like, Job Simulator is a bigger one that was known before. So they have, like, that. Basically, they have a copy of it for you to play. And, you can check them both out. Like, so he was saying one of our ideas is that people can come in, play a game, give us notes, or tell us what kind of game maybe they want to see, and we can, like, literally develop it, like, on the fly, or soon thereafter.
So cool.
Yeah. And I told them, like, that's an incredible idea. That's extremely smart. I love it.
So I also played Job Simulator later on in the day.
You guys simulated jobs, and I have enough jobs in my real life. I did not play it. But go on.
And I played the chef, but I couldn't find the kettle to make the person tea. So I just drank wine behind the bar and threw the bottles. And then I was eating eating all the food I could, because I didn't know that I could personally interact with the food. So I was pantomiming in reality, actually taking bites of the food, which I think you pointed out.
I did mention it because Ian was looking at me at the time, and and Rami was on the other side, at the computer where he was running things. So Ian was facing us and pantomiming eating an orange or something at the time.
Or whatever it was.
And I talked over him. I talked over Ian to Rami. I was like, he's actually pantomiming eating the food right now. And I don't think Ian heard me at all.
I didn't hear him at all, nor did I know I was looking at him. I was in this, like, almost food truck, but in a mall type situation where I couldn't leave this little box I was in. But I would go through the wine. It's cool. And I was throwing it at one of the robots, and he was just glaring at me.
Yeah, so you did performed horribly in your job simulation, but it was quite fun, it seems. But no, so then you guys were doing that, and I was talking with him about games and stuff he liked. He's like, "You're gonna love this one." It's basically a zombie wave thing. So you're in sort of a snowy field, and you start off with a katana, which is awesome. First of all, by the way,
2 katanas.
yes, and so the way it works is that you have to like reach behind your back and then click the trigger of the controller, and then the katana appears.
When you bring it back, the katana.
It's like pulling it out of its sheath. It feels very natural. It looks cool. So zombies start showing up, and you can slice them, and you can throw the katanas at them. He said, "Remember, you have infinite katanas, so you can." He's like, "Don't feel like just do try shit out." Then eventually, after a couple waves, a gun appears. So now you have a katana and a gun, and that was it was fucking intense. Like, I played a lot of zombie games. He's like, and he even said, you notice the models, they're not all that,
right.
They're not that complex, but when they start like coming towards you and like jumping at you and leaping at you, it gets intense.
It reminded me of being inside like one of those old like 90s video games where you press the pedal and duck behind cover. And
like Time Crisis
that's what the
style.
enemies seemed like.
Yeah, sort of. But it was so engaging for that.
Right.
When a zombie runs out of your peripheral vision and you know it's about to attack you from the side.
Yeah.
My heart was actually racing playing this thing because, again, I didn't believe I was in this poorly rendered, no, not poorly, but like
stylized world. Yes.
Yeah, it's this Arctic tundra with like a plane in the distance, and I mean it looked very much like those old Time Crisis type games, like that graphic level. But like because I have a 300, I have to be aware of all 360 degrees of my surroundings. And he was telling me later levels they're attacking you from all sides.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Not just the 2 original spawn points. A green zombie appears like during the 3rd wave.
Third or 4th wave, I think. Yeah,
that's very, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually getting very intense.
Yes,
trying
indeed.
to hold. It was the most intense zombie action I've seen in the game.
Yeah, and one cool thing also mentioned. So he told us when you get unlock the gun, essentially, you can shoot. You can shoot normally, but if you hold it up towards your near your face, it's like looking on a sight, so it's more accurate. And that felt amazing too. Like taking headshots at zombies that way virtually.
Something we didn't ask him, and something I wanted to was where they got the hardware from for this, because those controllers that you got for your hands were awesome.
Yeah.
They felt really natural.
Yeah,
they were perfect.
Yeah, exactly. They were responsive as hell, and they weren't clunky. They weren't like annoying to use in any way.
Also, one last part about the zombie game is he mentioned that he wants to make this multiplayer.
Yes,
which
would be incredibly cool.
Yeah. You just stand back to back, like battling off zombies. And
he said you would be in you'd be in the different rooms. Like,
it's probably a good idea.
Again, you don't want people running into each other,
slamming their arms into each other.
But no, I mean, it would definitely lend itself to that. It was very, very cool to play, and again, like felt badass. Like actually, the most realistic way of shooting an actual gun at a zombie that I could get to. It was just really cool.
And I accidentally dropped the gun at one point, and I'm looking around for where it dropped to.
I did the same exact thing. I was looking around,
I'm like, I can't waste time looking for this gun. Zombies are coming at me. So that was an unintentional, like, great moment of panic.
That same exact thing happened, but there was I lost the gun, but there was a sword on the ground.
Yeah,
like in this, like right around the same place where I couldn't find the gun, so I just grabbed the sword and started slashing with that.
Yes, but you could still have pulled out infinite katanas if you remember that.
I did not know that.
But yes, but either way, it was still very, very cool. So it was definitely a good follow up, and I had a lot of fun with that one. And then what did you guys play after that? I took a break after that. You guys were playing something else.
I played Longbow.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah,
I played Longbow, the bow and arrow simulator, and that game was awesome.
That was really cool too. That one had before we go on, you're right. I played it after you.
Yeah.
Because I was watching you play a bit of it. Its style was almost like, imagine if you're in a Lego world, kind of.
Yeah.
Like
just like little
shooting Lego guys, sort of like silhouettes
men.
of guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And they're basically just trying to attack a gate. It's a castle defense game, but and you stand on the top of a turret and you fire arrows at them. It's a lot of fun.
They run down the castle walls and they're going left and right. Go ahead.
You have to hold up by one hand the bow, and draw back with an arrow
make
the
a
other.
knocking motion, if you will. Yeah.
And based on how far you draw back is the range and distance, and so you're trying to judge all of these elements that are completely different than how it would work
in a normal game. Sure.
Like even in like good games that do bow mechanics well.
Mm-hmm.
This is a completely different set of skills you need.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I played like the Wii bow and arrow game, and it was nowhere near as good, like as smooth as this was.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
The mechanics of this were so smooth. Just the motion of like pulling the arrow, drawing the bow and
it
and
felt
letting go.
Perfectly natural. You're right. So I got my turn after that, and of course, I thought I was going to be awesome at it, but I found myself missing a lot. And I will mention one other cool thing. So it's sort of a wave thing. So initial guys are just like random, again, like black stick figure guys running down the walls. And then they started wearing Viking helmets.
Yeah.
And if you hit them in the helmet comes off.
Knocks
And
their
they're
helmet
still
off,
coming.
yeah.
And also you could, I think you guys forgot to mention that there's like TNT barrels placed around, which you can strategically use. And what was
There's
something
also,
else?
it's like boiling oil,
Yes.
I think, or whatever at the top of the
Which
wall.
I didn't even know about. You told me about it. Like,
You
you're
hit
like,
you hit a target and it knocks that over.
yeah.
And
Steve said afterwards, "Did you use the boiling oil?" I was like, "I didn't even see that existed," but that's fucking awesome.
there were actually two of them. There's one on top of the wall where they're
Right.
trying to break in, and then there's one right to your right.
See, I'm going to mention here one of the issues I've had. This is a beta test, so they're completely forgivable. But with the zombie defense, the zombie game, and with the castle defense longbow, it felt that, like, if this is a normal arcade game, you would put in more quarters and you get to play another life. I felt that there was I know they're testing out mechanics, but it felt like that these games were impossible to beat almost.
Yeah.
And that it was meant to be that way because they're testing out.
Maybe.
Yeah,
see what
just
you mean,
infinite
yeah.
waves. Like
It's
you're
the-
never moving on to the next level.
It's the
You just-
gelatinous cube thing from Wayne's World or whatever that little speech was.
Yeah.
Sure, I get that. I didn't think about it, but not like you're right. It sort of did kind of feel like that. I can see what you mean, but I still had a lot of fun with it. Even though, you're like eventually you sort of did get a feel for how forcefully you should draw it back and where you should aim and so forth. So I remember Ian was getting pretty good at it by the time his play session was done. But no, it was again a neat little game and it was really fun. And actually, just real quickly, also before you get into that view, if you recall, in Longbow, there was like a big like bird's eye view of the whole castle, and then you like basically reach out and click on a little portion of it, a section of it, and then you're like sort of down in it.
Yep.
So that was a really cool touch. I thought, like, it's not you don't just start there. You have to do that real quick. It gives you like kind of layout of
I think that's
your castle.
I think that's them. Whoever I don't know if this is a game that they're
I'm not
developing
sure
or if
about
it's
that.
a different one, but I think that's their way of like testing movement within games because
Sure.
Longbow?
yeah.
No, that's part of the same one that Secret Shop was in. The Lab, I believe, is the total.
Oh yeah, it's under the banner of the Lab games, if you will.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
which we'll get to. So yeah,
A game I played that I don't think either of you played, which I'm calling Balloon Cave. It's kind of a
I
very
played it real
relaxing.
quickly.
I didn't even see this one.
Yeah.
It's a relaxing game. You basically are stuck in a cave with a waterfall, and you have a.
Well, no, real quickly. I believe he said it was actual scans of the
Yeah.
landscape in Ireland. So it's like he was like, you're literally, transported to Ireland.
Yeah, no, it was a beautiful game.
Well,
don't
not
get me
literally,
wrong.
of course, but yes,
Figuratively.
it did look very, very excellent.
Virtually.
It was the most photorealistic one, I guess I'll say. So go ahead.
And you had a little device that could blow up balloons, and yeah, that's
You wander around the Irish countryside,
it's the
letting
only,
balloons fly.
It's the only game I found a glitch in, but it's so weird being in virtual reality because eventually we ended up taking off the masks and stuff like that on our own. But if you were waiting for help to get out of this contraption, you're kind of stuck in this environment until
world.
someone lets you out.
Please
So-
help me.
So I was stuck in this cave with a balloon gun, and I was just trying to break it as much as possible. It was there that I think I went to hit one of the balloons and struck the one of the
runner thing.
the runner. But again, I went down to the rocks on the ground and we're blowing up balloons inside the rocks, and there was an actual glitch there.
Yeah, so I mean, he was like, "This is a relaxing game," and surely it was.
Yeah.
And then there was one other one I played briefly, and then I think Steve-O played it. It was sort of like a 3D paintbrush game, like Mario Paint in virtualized world, where Rami asked me, he's like, "Oh, what kind of music you like?" I was like, off the top of my head, throw on some Pink Floyd. I love Pink Floyd. He was like, "Oh, good call." So basically, you have like sort of a virtualized menu of different kinds of tool brushes and so forth, like paintbrushes and effects, and you can just sort of paint to your chosen music. And I chose something like, what was it, the first one? It was sort of like a rainbow effect. So you wave your hand around, you hold down the trigger, and in front of you, whatever effect you choose starts doing. You can write with it, you can make designs. I, of course, am not very artistically inclined, so that'll come into play later. Steve will tell you about. But it was cool because you can sort of walk through your own designs. I changed to like smoke screen or something, so it was like green smoke effects were now happening, and you could walk around. You could like step back and see it, or you could like walk into it, so then it's all surrounding you. It was really cool. And then you played it, Steve-O, and then he told us a little cool thing about that game, and which you all can tell us about.
So I messed around in the room that Scott was in for a little while. I just jumped into the same room, and
all my crappy
I did like a couple
effects were there.
I did a couple things like waving the wand around and like putting Pink Floyd in like cursive up and like up on the wall or whatever. But then Rami told me about this other option that there is where you can go and look at videos of stuff that other people have created, and there were a bunch of artists that had, or ostensibly artists,
artistically inclined people.
Yeah, indeed.
Versus us,
who had done a bunch of really cool stuff. There was one that was it was this big head of a I forget what it was called. It was called like Titmouse number 6 or something like that. It was like this big mouse head basically, but there's a sign next to it that said "Look inside me." So you like walk into the middle of the head, and there's a bunch of drawings on the walls of like the inside of the head.
It's an incredible effect that you cannot get elsewhere. Yeah,
really interesting stuff, and like I can't imagine all the cool things that great artists
can do with that shit.
Could do with this type of it's a whole new type of environment for them. I actually want to get people that are artists and bring them there just so they can play with that. For a while.
It's a 3D like studio, like workspace essentially, a 3D canvas, if you will. Which
exactly
was really fucking cool. So sure, it wasn't quite a game. It was definitely, but sweet to see, to check out. And then I think, so I took another break. You guys, I think, went back to Job Simulator since you were enraptured by Job Simulator. Yeah. So I looked at the little menu because Rami was also saying like, we have a couple other things we're working on. Again, like you said, it's a beta test. So there's like stuff, half-finished projects or like this little demos that aren't quite put together. So I saw something that caught my eye. It was a game called Secret Shop. And based on the description, it was something like a fantasy novelty shop that you visit. And I was like, I have to play that. So I asked him to load it up. So what happens is this might be my favorite. This might speak to me about the VR experience because it wasn't quite a game. But what happens is you're in a very stylized, I think Ian said, the sort of Myst-like little shop, kind of a brick hut, and a fat older man, fantasy style with a huge robes, walks into the shop, starts talking to you. He's like, I'm closing up now for the night, but feel free to wander around and check out my various goods. And he hands you a light. So you hold out your hand to his, like to meet his, hold on the trigger. Now you have a light in your hand and you turn around and you can just explore this shop full of magical curiosities. Little creatures are running around. There's a whole huge bookshelf. There's like magical items. There's a hammer. There's all this stuff. And the things will follow you. So I saw a little frog in the corner. I went up to, you can walk through the shop, and as you get closer, you can hold the light up to objects, and they'll do things, or like they'll respond variously. So the frog was like following me around, and he was jumping across the shelf. Like I think Ian saw a book fly out, like almost a Necronomicon kind of thing.
I got into a boxing. The jack-o'-lantern popped up.
I didn't see that.
I was just boxing the speed bagging the jack-o'-lantern's head. And what's kind of funny is I was watching you play it the original time, and you can warp around the room, but you can also walk around the room. So you almost walked into the monitor of Rami's monitor for that. And
sorry about that.
You hold up this. I imagine you were about to knock the monitor off the desk. But that's one of the issues with just, again.
It felt so real. Like, so again, it's almost indescribable how cool this is, but you can't really get a sense of it unless you play it. So it felt like being in the shop. So it was, again, because of the nature of it, it was bigger on the inside than it seems. So you can switch rooms manually, or you can just wander around.
Yeah.
And you have no idea like how big it, what your actual range of movement is in the reality. Because I'm just looking at, there's a little dragon creature back there. I'm gonna go look at him. Oh shit, there's a sword on the wall over there. And the one really cool thing, if I wasn't sold on something like that beforehand, there was a section of the shop where there's a book, an open book on the table, and Raymond was like, go up to that book, see the little, the white area, like basically little sigils are on it.
Yeah.
He's like, go up and click on that. You do that, and then the perspective shifts as if you're now very, very tiny, standing on the pages of the book. The shop is huge, and like the ceiling is like cavernous now. You look down at your feet, and it's text essentially because you're standing on the page of the book.
Yeah.
It's just a really cool effect. I don't know. I can't gush about it enough. It was the VR that I imagined when I was a kid, and now it has arrived.
The quote-unquote ending to the game, which both Scott and I found. I don't know if it's I imagine there's more to the game than just this. But if you don't solve whatever puzzles there are in time, a giant comes at the end. And
I think it just predetermined, like you said, like put it in another quarter or whatever. Because clearly, again, it was, I think, more of a demo-ish thing. Or like they had just done that part of it.
Yeah.
But depending on where you're looking around, it's coming in through the roof.
Yeah.
So you start hear it. 360
things are like shaking, like booming. Yeah.
And like dust coming down off the. It is like being like you kind of get into a, not like a full-blown panic, but like looking around
for wherever this is coming from. Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
And then you can finally look up into the sky and see this like giant staring down at
giant
you.
like sort of like rips a hole in the ceiling and like peeks his face in and growls at you, and it's really, really cool.
That's awesome.
It was just incredible. And again, like stylized, the art style of it was just so perfect for that kind of thing. I could see a whole, basically, you're right. There's probably more story. Or like one could put more story into something like that, and you just wander around this like magical, like mystical shop, uncovering mysteries and solving puzzles and finding little creatures and so forth. It was just incredible. So I'm really glad that I got to play that one. It was the most immersive one that I like. Even though, like, again, I wasn't shooting anything, I was just wandering around, but it felt so real, even though it was a stylized fantasy thing.
When we go back there, for sure, I have to play that one.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to check it out.
I'm sorry we didn't have enough time for you to play it, but
You mentioned the frog earlier.
yes.
It actually shot its tongue out
Yes,
at my face.
that's right, yeah.
Which was almost, like better than 3D generally, in movies. And I also did find another one of those inscriptions to.
Oh, really?
The giant came before I could hit
Right.
that one. So, like, again, for such a simple game, I want to go back and play it again.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just, again, it got me, and that's the kind of shit that I love. But of course, I liked everything that I played, but that one just was the VR experience for me. And then I think to close off my session, I went back and played a bit more of the space shooter game to put up some high scores. Or I think I did time attack, so
There you go.
time's ticking down. The more things you kill, it's a classic, plus 2 seconds for a kill or whatever.
Right.
So I was doing that because by that time I thought I'd gotten pretty good at it. I was like shooting everywhere, dodging shit. Steve was Matrix dodging lasers earlier. So yeah, man, it was incredible. Arcane Reality, awesome. Check them out. I think we might do a couple of things coming up this season with them. At least,
we're certainly going to talk to Rami and see what we can do.
I promised him, and I'm doing it now, that I will spout the awesomeness of this experience because it was incredible to me, having been my first actual delving into being able to play VR games and see what the how they're like and what the mechanics look like. It was incredible. I of course say check it out, and I hope we'll definitely going back, and hopefully they'll also have some either a bigger library, or maybe I'll get to solve beat Magic Shop or Secret Shop and see more puzzles and more little cool things.
There's so much room for this to grow in every aspect,
Yes.
whether both for fun and I'm excited. I loved arcades as a kid, and I think this could bring it back.
And that's sort of what Rami was saying, like it's kind of their intent, or at least one of the things they want to do.
But he was also talking about how he would like to develop, in a sense, spectator.
Yes, you're right.
So that
You're right.
you can.
I'm glad you brought that aspect up. Go on.
You can watch the world around, like almost like you're there, but
Right, so you can look around independent of what the person playing is
but
seeing.
you get to see what's coming. Like the zombie attack, you'd be able to see a zombie charging the person
Right.
who's in there. So if you can include that with an arcade experience, that would make it not only immersive to come play, but immersive to come watch
Exactly,
people play
yeah.
as well. And the stuff like the katanas in the zombie game, I can imagine some people are dual wielding pistols,
Yes.
and firing at two groups of zombies at the same time, but you can only like look at one. I imagine some people will become very, very good
For sure. Yeah.
at that kind of stuff, and
Mhm.
it would be impressive to watch people who are good at these games with both
Yeah,
the
just sitting
reaction
in,
times
Yeah.
and the physicality of it.
Exactly.
basically sitting in an arena and watching somebody do something like that,
Yeah, for sure.
being on the outskirts of it. Yeah, there is so
Much potential.
There's so many cool things that can be done with this. There's
and
so much there. Like, I mean, they're just scratching the surface right now.
Exactly.
For sure.
We had a discussion at length with Rami, all of us, like just about that very thing,
Yeah.
about the ideas he had and things like that he mentioned I didn't even think of, like other uses you can get out of it.
Well, I know he said one of the things he said is that he's working with some trainers at local gyms to make VR like training programs, which is brilliant. Like,
But he's also talking about all the senses that you can have in here.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is, the idea is that he's got 4 of the senses worked out, but he still has yet to do taste, I think, but he wants a fully immersive environment. The idea is that he had one for, as you fire your gun and it gets hotter, you will actually feel it warm in your hand.
right.
Yep.
Or
He was working with fans and like blowing like gusts of wind up at you from below or whatever.
or
and,
especially for like driving games, to
Yeah.
give you the
Yep.
a greater illusion of you.
Yeah, all these little
driving.
touches that just were like make it a more believable world of things I didn't even think about. I just thought like visually it was good enough, but
and I don't know if this was part of their experimentation on, but he pointed at a desk and he was like, "That's our He's like, that's our workshop desk, basically.
Yeah.
And I saw like a bunch of equipment, but the first thing I noticed was there's like a bunch of Tabasco sauces out there. I was like, I wonder if one of those are part of what you're experimenting with.
To go back to the chef simulator I had, when I was eating an orange, I could imagine playing that game and actually tasting
an orange,
when I take a bite. And those kind of games would allow you to have specific things occur when you're like, because you know what the tastes are beforehand. And I don't know, again, the biggest challenge I think is developing and the ability to walk through a virtual world. And it's not quite there yet. Actually, I think a funny story was what Ray was saying about the guy who leaned on the desk.
Oh yeah, he leaned on
the virtual desk, so he almost fell it down.
Sure, certainly there are pitfalls to there that are possible, but I think by and large it was just such a cool experience. Like I'm definitely going back. He ended up giving us a bit of a discount, so that was really cool too. Or we played longer than we probably should have.
Yeah,
but I'm really glad for that. It was amazing. So yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about it. We're definitely, I think, going, like I said, do a couple possible cross promotions.
Yeah.
With Arcane.
And talk to him.
So yeah, man.
Sure.
And if you're in the area, if you're in the New Brunswick-ish area, it's probably about 15, 20 minutes away from you. Check it out. It's incredible.
It's well, we should give that information because
yes,
we haven't
actually,
done it yet.
why don't you do that?
So it's, as we mentioned a bunch of times already, it's Arcane Reality. They're on Davidson Avenue in Somerset. You can go onto their website, arcanereality.com. Or you can, and I think their further information is on there.
They're also
they're
definitely on Facebook and so forth. So,
and we'll post all this stuff up on YouTube and the website.
But I also believe they're planning to do some events in New York and hopefully open up a shop in New York at one point.
And the plan, I believe, is for them to open up a shop in New Brunswick.
Yep.
In order to take advantage of all the college kids or whatever around there.
Secret shop, if you will.
It's about
virtual reality shop.
As of right now, it's $15 for 30 minutes. That might change. I don't know really what their plans are for pricing, but you can probably go find that pricing right on the website.
Yep.
Go check that out there. It's an awesome time. I highly suggest you go to it. And if you're an artist, go check out that paint thing and make some cool art in there because some of those are, or even just go and look at and appreciate what other people have done because some of those things are really cool.
It's everything you actually want out of virtual reality.
Yeah,
I know it's not like perfect 100% existence,
but I was not disappointed by any of these things at all.
Yeah, it's absolutely it's better than I thought it would be, and I had high hopes for it to begin with.
Yes, it was a very enjoyable experience, and like I said, closing off with Secret Shop just killed it for me.
Perfect.
It's amazing. Yeah, exactly. But and perhaps they're working on. I can feel the zombies' blood splash across my face will be the next update, the next patch they put into that game. But no, like we all just said, it was incredible. Like I don't have much more to say. Just check it out, and those are our impressions. And I'm certainly going to go back there, and I hope they do open more spots and more places that you can just easily do this and play some VR games. And
absolutely,
develop more of them.
It's
take
definitely
notes.
A lot of fun.
Like I said, one thing I definitely really respect is they're going to take notes from their customers and use some of that feedback to either tweak a game,
right,
or develop a new one. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Just check them out. Arcane Reality, like I said, awesome. And VR is the future is now. So I, of course, have been Scott Thurlow in real life and in virtual reality, joined by Jonathan Manzer.
It was only in the virtual reality.
And Stephen Amosi.
I'm just in virtual insanity.
Yes, indeed. And good night. We'll see you next time. This has been Syntax Error. Thank you as always for listening, and we will see you next time.
Music by Stephen Armosi. Editing and engineering by Scott Thurlow.
Syntax Error is part of a Lost Signals Productions. All rights reserved.